Hi, I'm going to start over again. Well, not over again. I'm going to start up again. And I'm going straight into passive listening. I'm not sure exactly where I got left off where my video cut off. So, passive listening. When do you do it? You do it when you're doing other things, such as watching TV. You can watch TV. Let's say you're studying French. Play the French very low. You only need to have it loud enough so that if you put your full attention on the French, you could hear that French was being played. Otherwise, this does not have to be that loud. You can enjoy your TV program or your favorite music. Like music, hey, play a lot of music, have the French playing in the background. What I do not want you to do is take any of your time to do the passive listening. Go about your life as you normally do and have the French playing lightly so as not to bother anything else you're doing. This is just for your speech center to get input that it needs to help tune your ear into the language. Now, mind you, you can listen to French for 10 years and it may very well not be enough. I once listened to Spanish for 10 straight years for 3 hours a day. It helped. I was able to then follow somebody if they were talking to me and slowed it down a little bit. I could pick up their Spanish. If I couldn't pick it up on TV, my system, anybody in 2 days can be starting to hear Spanish on TV. Now, mind you, you got to first condition your ear for 21 hours of passive listening. Then you start doing the ear tuning exercises. A couple of days later, you're hearing Spanish pretty good. And you keep doing the ear tuning exercises and you keep doing the passive listening because you want to get a native ear. You don't want to stop with just good enough. So, what else can you do passive listening? While you're eating, while you're getting ready for the morning, while you're getting ready for bed at night. Um, if you're studying a second language, such as German, maybe you're looking up stuff uh, for to set up your read throughs later. So you're going through an audiobook, you're writing down words you don't know, you're looking them up, putting the definitions down, and you got to do all that to set up your read throughs if somebody has not set them up for you. I routinely set up people uh, for languages because people ask why can I do this for free? Well, if I teach one person German and send them all the information for what the sentences mean in an audiobook, well, I can send it to 10, 20, 30 more people. It's not that difficult. Um, Once in a while, I end up talking to someone on the phone a lot, but I do more of just sending information to people and telling them how to go about using it. Okay, so anyway, so you're sitting there looking up words in German that you're going to use later for read throughs. What are you going to do during then? Well, if you're if you listen to German, it may distract you. If you're working with German, thinking about German, any German playing in the background is probably going to rivet your attention toward it, and you can't get anything done. Well, let's say you're also learning French, so you're really concentrating on German. Now you have French playing in the background. It's quite easy to ignore because your mind is riveted onto German. Um, Even when you do the read throughs themselves, when you're to do a read through, you got the German set up to where you can look at what the words mean, what that first sentence in German means, because you got the notes there. Okay, this word is that, this word is this. Cool. Okay, this phrase means this, and the overall meaning is this. Okay, you've looked that over, you know what that first sentence means. Now you listen to it for understanding. This is just for understanding. Therefore, you can be playing the French in the background even while you're doing that. Won't bother learning your German a bit, um, or whatever else other languages you are interested in. Um, You can play multiple languages. Um, let's say you've listened to a whole lot of uh, German full speed audiobooks, but now you want to learn the common phrases. And let's say you already know the Portuguese common phrases. Well, why not play a Portuguese to German common phrase video? I don't suggest that people listen to a lot of common phrase videos initially because I think it's much quicker to learn by full speed speech. But once your ear is really sharp and you have a lot of vocabulary, because you went through a dozen of these audiobooks in German, hey, why not? You want to learn the polite phrases. No harm in listening, spending some of your time listening to the common phrase videos. And even there, you want to make sure you know all the words in the common phrase videos so that you maximize any listening time you get to those videos. Um, Another thing, if you know a language already somewhat and you're passively listening to it, you're trying to ignore it. Well, if you know a lot of Spanish and your ear is partially tuned to it, your ear will be drawn to it occasionally. It's perfectly okay. When I tell you to do 2 hours of passive listening, I expect you to be ignoring it most of the time, but there may be like 10, 12 minutes in there where you've stopped and you're paying attention to some a paragraph here and there. That's perfectly okay. The main thing is you don't have your mind riveted onto that German and taking your time up with it, okay? I want your mind to be relaxed as far as the German goes. You're kind of letting it soak in. Your speech center is the target there. And there's two reasons for the passive listening. Initially, it's for ear tuning. Later on, it's for picking up the language. If you hear a language perfectly, you'll pick it up a lot faster than if you can barely hear it. And some of this stuff I'm telling you, I've proved uh, between the end of March of 2019 and November 1, 2019. I spent a whole lot of time trying to figure out how to do things slicker, quicker. Um, I found out a whole lot of things that don't work. One thing that does not work. Let's say your ear is tuned into Russian partially, and you figure, well, you'll start doing read throughs, and your ear will get better over time. And no, it very well might not. You could do the read throughs where you're listening to the Russian for understanding, and then looking over the notes, reading the next sentence. And you can do a whole lot of that. And if you're not doing ear tuning exercises, you can go months of that and get a very, very slight improvement. But yet, a few days of ear tuning exercises will completely outdo the months of listening and hoping that your ear gets better. So passive listening is not a good idea in general to expect it to get your ear to get better for a language. Can it help? Yes. But why take months to do what only should take days? Okay? So passive listening, if you're not learning that audiobook, why are you listening to it? Okay? Now, with that said, I absolutely encourage people to listen to stuff in their target language all the time. But put at least half your time into listening to stuff that you want to actually learn. Like you have an audiobook. I want to learn. I'm on my third episode of a program on Netflix in Spanish, for instance, right? I've learned the first couple of programs. I want to learn the third one. I listen to that series quite a lot because I'm learning it. Okay. Do I listen to a random movie now and then in Spanish? Just ignore it really just for passive listening? Yeah. I've always done some percentage of general passive listening that has no purpose whatsoever to it. Um, just get myself exposed to more Spanish. And I'm always telling people, yeah, you want to expand what you listen to, but you want to learn what some of it. You want to learn it well, and not just well. You want to learn it like I'm an English speaker. I want to learn some of the Spanish so well that they could be telling that story in English or telling it to me in Spanish. It wouldn't make a difference. I'm gonna hear it just as well either way. That's what you call having a native ear for something. You just flat out. It sounds like your native language to you. Someone's speaking in it. Okay. So that's where you want to get, and why? Why do you want to get there? Because it promotes fluency. To be very, very familiar with something promotes fluency, whereas if you are just semi-familiar with, say 200,000 words of Spanish, you know the whole Spanish language. Doesn't mean you're fluent in it. If you know like 500 words really, really well, then you are fluent. There's the difference. So you cannot continually look for new material and expect to get fluent that way. Do you keep looking for new material? Yes. But the value of going back to the old material is cannot be understated. Every child becomes fluent with only knowing, and they even get to college, they can only correctly write down on a piece of paper when writing a term paper for their college professor 500 words. That's all they can do. They can write down 500 words correctly. But yet, everyone would say they're perfectly fluent in their language. Okay? So you don't have to be able to write correctly 200,000 words of Spanish. You need to know how to write correctly maybe 500 words of Spanish and be very, very, very fluent in those. Now, I've been fluent in French before, back when I was just out of my teens, which is a long time ago. I had a 2,000 word vocabulary back then, but I knew how to use it. I could say anything I wanted to in French, okay? And I babbled on in French with somebody for hours a day. Um, and at first, mind you, I wasn't really strong at it, but after a year went by, I was getting pretty darn good at speaking French and saying anything I wanted to say. Well, and I didn't know all the words. I knew 2,000 words, and I knew a lot of a lot of borrowed words. Uh, but I knew exactly which ones were borrowed, how a French person would use them, that kind of thing. It's not the amount of the amount you know. Again, Spanish. I was fluent in Spanish once, but uh, I had not really learned a lot of vocabulary. Then I started reading novels in Spanish, so my vocabulary went way, way up, but wasn't getting practice speaking. So I lost my fluency, not because I was learning more words, but because I wasn't at that point I wasn't practicing speaking. I wasn't concentrating on knowing a small subset of words. Okay, so your passive listening, all you choose it for what's going to work in the long run. Number one, ear tuning uh, doesn't matter what you listen to, and I don't have 100% on that as far as I might put a person ear tuning to something in Japanese, for instance. Now, I don't know Japanese, mind you, but I'm ear tuned to it because of my work with Korean, and then I went on a little bit of work to get more tuned into Japanese, so I can write ear tuning syllables for people. Um, anyway, so, but I have people do their initial ear tuning to something they're not actually going to learn. Why? Because there's more words per minute they're hearing in this particular case. I got a reason for it. So they do their initial ear tuning to this one audiobook, but then I start doing more ear tuning in the actual audiobook that they will actually be learning words from. Okay, and actually, I have one of my language partners is learning Japanese. Uh, I'm going to try to keep up with that person, but it's one of several languages the person's learning. So I'm not planning on learning a whole lot of Japanese very fast. Same thing with Lithuanian. Um, I'm not putting much effort in that. I've done some ear tuning stuff for it. Um, it's on my schedule to learn more Lithuanian, going very slow on it. Um, I already have 12 primary languages I'm studying, uh, so I'm not going to add any more. People have asked me, hey, I'll teach Turkish. I got to pass because I don't want to stop learning any of my current languages, and I think 12 is enough for my plate right now. Okay, so back keep trying to keep this back to passive listening. Okay, sometimes like if I'm trying to learn common phrases, I will play four languages at the same time in the background. I'll have say uh, Portuguese going to Arabic, and at the same time I'll have uh, Greek introducing Italian. So I got four languages buzzing out in the background. Same time, I'm doing read-throughs for German or read-throughs for Mandarin or some other language. So I'm kind of helping myself learn five languages all at the same time. It's all about time efficiency. Passive listening, you don't have to pay any attention to it. So there's no reason you can't mix and match languages. I mean, I only if something sounds funny, like it's like two voices are merging together, and it kind of sounds like a buzz because it's too much interference. I mean, two voices are too similar or whatever. I'll avoid that. These if I'm using common phrase videos, I stop one and then restart it. I get it so it's so they each time someone's speaking, only one person's speaking for at least 90% of the time. It's not hard to stagger them like that. Um, two languages at the same time, as long as they're in different pitches, that'll work. I won't go to three. I've never went to three. It gets to be a bit of a any three languages in the background at the same time, full speed. It gets to be a bit of a buzz. So don't do that. And I do a whole lot of just one language in the background. And while I'm uh, setting up read throughs for another, and while I'm doing that setup, while I'm looking through like Portuguese, looking up words I don't know, when I get to a certain point, I will play the Portuguese and listen to that section that I just looked up. Now turn it back off. Now back to just looking up words. And meanwhile, the whole time, say French has been playing. I look at see what today. Um, I had German playing much of the day as I was looking up words in Portuguese. You see here. So, bottom line, if you're not trying to learn an item, make it a lower priority for your passive listening time. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. I've about covered all my points for passive listening. Um, I'm going to keep going a little bit, I guess. We'll go back to ear tuning. Okay. And I mentioned my history of ear tuning in the previous video. I'm going to give some more details about ear tuning. Okay, I provide my student with about 30 seconds worth of ear tuning syllables, and I give them instructions. I tell them, okay, you try to follow these instructions, or just call me, or I can just type you instructions over Facebook Messenger and tell you how it goes. Okay, and well, the, you would you would think that this is a pretty simple thing, but when you're dealing across many different languages, what seems simple is not. A lot of times I give someone an instruction and it's completely taken the wrong way because they speak a different language. If I tell someone to read silently, that to them that means, oh, they're going to read out loud, but kind of softly. Well, okay, no, that's I meant to only read in your mind only. Eventually, I come up with the right phrase that they understand to mean that they're only listening. My ear tuning exercises are only for listening. No, I'm not telling anyone to talk during these ear tuning exercises. After a person's done a lot of ear tuning exercises over the months, and they're also doing a whole lot of their read throughs, and they're still doing all this passive listening, more and more of which they can actually hear and understand. Um, which is called comprehensible input. If you can hear a language and understand what's being said, you get enough of that comprehensible input, you're going to want to start speaking the language. At that point, I tell them, okay, I still want you, when you do your ear tuning, to do this. Play the audiobook, follow the ear tuning syllables exactly as they are spoken. If you can do that really, really well, listen even carefully. Listen more carefully. Exactly what are they saying? Or a or what? Listen closer. You can follow them very easily, but listen even closer. What are they saying exactly? Put even more attention on it. And then still, I tell them, okay, now you're going to close your eyes and just listen, because I want your put everything on listening. It means close your eyes, put everything towards your ears. Okay, listen carefully. And they've been doing this for months. They're doing less of it. They start out 1 hour a day, but now they're doing it maybe 5 minutes twice a week. Okay, but still, when they do it, they're going to do it right. They're going to do all the steps. They're going to follow the ear tuning syllables. They're going to listen very carefully. And then I tell them, okay, now you want to talk along? Yeah, you've just done what you're supposed to do. Go ahead and talk along. Now they're going to listen to the uh, Portuguese play or whatever, Spanish or Korean. Then they're going to talk right along with the audio. That's fine. So, and I encourage people to, whenever they feel like talking a language, to talk in that language, um, but still do my exercises without talking. This includes ear tuning exercises and read throughs. Well, a read through, again, you're told to read silently in your mind only as the audiobook is playing, and to keep up right along with the word by word, as it's being spoken. Well, it sounds like, well, isn't that ear tuning? No. In ear tuning, you don't care what the definition is at all. All you care about is what sounds are being made. When you go to read throughs, you're not worrying about the sounds anymore. Now you're worried about, do you understand what is being said? Okay. Um, Different subject slightly on doing the ear tuning. Okay. Once you have a really good grasp of of being able to understand, say, Portuguese, there's still going to be a little question here and there in your mind about exactly how you're supposed to say something. Well, at this point, you start speeding your reading up a little bit to where you're going to see if you can read ahead of the guy speaking. So my ear tuning, then followed by with my read throughs, automatically have a person being able to read at the speed it's being spoken. But now I'm going to start telling the person, and I haven't had too many students get this far, to start reading well ahead of the guy speaking. Why? Okay, so they're getting the reading speed up. So wherever they are, I tell them, okay, see how fast you can jump 3 or 4 sentences ahead or a paragraph ahead. So you keep building your reading speed up. Then I tell them, okay, you've been working on getting your reading speed, and I didn't really care about your reading speed. What I cared about is this. I want you to be able to read just ahead of that guy speaking. So you can pay attention to what is written in front of you, what the Portuguese word is, and pay attention to exactly how that guy pronounces the word. So that is part of ear tuning that haven't had many people get to, but just want to point that out. See more. I'm kind of making this up as I go. I'm just trying to. I lost some time earlier, so I'm just trying to make this thing here about a half hour long. Um, so ear tuning, uh, the subject of ear tuning in general. I thought, again, with Russian, I tried this for a long time. I tried not doing the ear tuning, which I couldn't really do it. I didn't have ear tuning syllables, right? If my ear is not tuned into Russian, well, someone has to write me ear tuning syllables. And so far, I'm not saying I'm the only person in the world, but pretty much the only person in the world regularly writing ear tuning syllables. Although the very first ones were written to me in Hindi for Hindi in English letters for me to get my ear tuned to Hindi. I've turned around and written ear tuning syllables for like 15 different languages at this point. Um, 16 if you count Irish English. Okay. So I'm always writing ear tuning syllables, but nobody's writing them for me because, well, no one's ever heard of this whole system before. Okay. So back to Russian. Let's say you're learning a language and you got somewhere on it because you know a similar language that contributes to it, and you're hearing it partially. In my case, the Russian tuned in to some extent because of other associated languages, like 6 of them that contribute to Russian. Um, so my ear tuned into it, but yet it wasn't good enough. Okay. Well, what did I do? After giving up on the idea that my ear was going to get better by listening to a lot of Russian, I started rewriting my ear tuning syllables that I had initially, realizing that my ear did get better somewhat. Sure enough, I was able to better approximate the Russian language with another second set. So then what I do? Well, okay, now I got a better approximation with my new ear tuning syllables. I use them for 3 days. That's the key. 3 days. That means 1 hour a day times 3 days. Listening to a lot of Russian. After 3 days, you're going to get a lot of what you're going to get out of those ear tuning syllables. You write them again. Rewrite in other words, you listen. It's called taking dictation. You listen very carefully and you write down what you're hearing. Well, my ear is a little better. So after about 8 cycles of this, maybe 12, it was quite a few. Anyway, after many cycles of this, the ear tuning syllables stabilized. In other words, now, no matter how many times I tried doing the ear tuning, I was hearing exactly the same thing. So I knew I was pretty darn close. And at that time, I started sharing them with other people. And sure enough, they work. And they work. And a person, I spent months on this with Russian altogether. And, the next guy doesn't have to have my experience. Next person, listen to Russian for 21 hours, start doing the ear tuning. A few days later, boom, they're hearing it pretty good. And skip all of what I went through to write those ear tuning syllables. I'm bringing this up because you may be out there trying to learn a language and you have nobody helping you. Well, this is how you do it. You do dictation, whatever you're hearing, uh, and then that's assuming you got. If you're just hearing a buzz, what can you do? If you just started learning Korean, it sounds like to you. There's nothing you can do. Okay. Well, there is something you can do. You can study the Korean alphabet And based on what you're seeing, and it's quite a bit of a study that if you go that way, you can put down what theoretically should be there. You know, all the Korean pronunciation rules, and try to use those for ear tuning syllables. Okay. And after using them, uh, then hopefully your ear will get a little bit better for the Korean, and you do the exact same thing again. Again, a cycle every 3 days, right? New ear tuning syllables for the Korean. So, but if you're learning Korean from me, you're not going to do that. You're going to just be given the in English letters, the ear tuning syllables. And it only takes 2 days. Korean is one of the quickest ones there is. 2 days to hear it pretty good. Okay. Um, I learned Korean conventionally for 5 years once upon a time. And I was told if I went to Korea, there's no way I'm going to hear anything they're saying. It's going to take a long time, all this immerse into the language in a year or two before I can understand the bus driver or anything he says, right? I can get a person to that point in 2 days after they've listened to Korean for 21 hours. I give them the ear tuning syllables. And then this only takes 2 hours, mind you, because it's a half hour the first day, half hour that night, half hour on the second day, a half hour that night. Third day, play the Korean, bam, it's locked in. No more buzzing. It sounds like nice, crystal clear speech. I'm going to end this because my throat has rebelled on me. Can't talk any further. Okay, hopefully I'll be back at the same time tomorrow at 5 o'clock. If I have technical problems, hang in there. I'm not going to end the video until at least 6. Okay, so if I get kicked off like I did today, I'm going to come right back on. Okay, today my topic was I tried to focus on the passive listening. Tomorrow I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna give a quick overview of the program, but then I'm gonna zero in on ear tuning, exact instructions and strategies to make it easier for a new person. Okay, um, I've mentioned to you in these videos. I'm telling people to do the impossible. Well, there's another way to go about it. If that doing the impossible thing, that's without me doing any coaching. If I coach them, I can have them do little bits here and there that they can do, and I can get them slowly into the thing, kind of coach them into it to where it's not quite so impossible. Um, and theoretically, I could do the 100. I could do that 100%, but then it's going to take me hours of my time, and I'd rather take none of my time to teach you ear tuning. The ear tuning will work the same amount of time whether I coach you or not. It's a matter of your speech center getting the input. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to go through strategies of exact ear tuning and how it goes, and assuming they'll let me back on tomorrow. I'm assuming I'll be here anyway. Okay. Uh, and then the next day I'll be talking about read-throughs. And hopefully the next day, I'm going to be talking about the subject of how you go through all the steps to teach a person Mandarin. And there's a lot of steps to that, to where the person never has to study and just picks it up, including the symbols,